Hi, this is Rooney207. Welcome back. I took a day off there in between after our League of Kingdoms continent versus continent event has ended. So, with that in mind, I wanted to talk about what it is that I would do with and some of my plans for the LOKA and the LOKA vouchers. The LOKA piece comes from my land. So I have a level 5 land. It was relatively feasible and doable to achieve a level 5 land with a single account. I think it's very difficult to get from level 5 to level 6 land. So I've kind of resigned and accepted the fact that I'll probably never see a level 6 land. It's very unlikely I would get enough. Maybe perhaps because the land is stackable right now. I think there's 59 continents. So if we maybe get into the hundreds or the low thousands, like 1500 continent or something like that, where the game grew exponentially over time. And this game does have the potential. It's just like Rise of Kingdoms. Rise of Kingdoms grew slowly, and now it's in the thousands of continents and kingdoms and many millions of players. So this game has that potential, depending on how much effort the developers put into trying to reinvest and grow into it. And with regards to the actual LOKA token itself, I get that from the land piece, and then when I get a little bit from the LOKA vouchers on from the continent versus continent event. My account, I'm at a little bit over 170 million power. So my account is not a big account. It's I think is slightly above average relative to the game where it is. And so there, I'll probably make videos on what I'm planning to do. I'm definitely not in the class of a top rally leader, so I wouldn't really develop my account towards that, but I would develop my accounts to have a lot of speed ups and a lot of T5 troops to support my rally leaders to defend the gates. And so I want to have unlimited troops to be able to provide the rally leaders and to help defend the gates and the fortresses. That's really my objective for continent versus continent. I'm not going to attack any city and things like that. So I want to build my mastery set to be more defensive in nature, and I'll get into that in later videos. For the purposes of this video, probably the next item I need to look at to grow my account. So my objective in any of these Web3 games is to get staking and get residual income, and basically eventually replace a standard United States dividend model. Hopefully, depending on regulation and where we go. But that's kind of my thesis over this Web3 gaming process. Is that I think Web3 is one of the fantastic areas to look at staking because it's brand new. It's there's very little opportunities in the staking market. There are very few viable crypto games that enables you to do it in a sustainable, meaningful manner that has longevity. So I identified a few, and this is where I'll kind of look through it. And this is not financial advice, and this is just something that I'm doing. I'm just sharing with what I'm doing. So you'll want to definitely do your own research and things like that. One of the new items that are being, I guess, increased importance within the League of Kingdoms game is dragons, the dragos. So breeding and resource minting capabilities. I can do another video on that as well later on to reflect some of these changes. This in a few days, it'll be towards the end of March, and I currently do not have any Dragos. I didn't buy any of the eggs or any of that, the initial sets. And I think this game, like Rise of Kingdoms or any type of game, the developer's goal is to get you to spend as much money. The challenge with a game like League of Kingdoms is that the more money you spent up front, the harder it is, the more difficult it is to get your money back or to make a sufficient, I think, appropriate return on a Web3 game for relative to the risk profile that you're looking at. So I tend to be more conservative. Like I bought I believe a level 1 or 2 land prior at the initial piece for $42, and then I just slowly develop it over time to a level 5. It's been at level 5 for over a year, I think, and it's just not. It just produced what it produces. So I've made the return up back on the land already, so it's just producing its daily LOKA there. The Drago now will be more important because you have breeding, you have the DST tokens, and you have the ability. I believe they're gonna League of Kingdoms will probably change it to where you have to have the Drago to be able to mint and sell resources, and then they'll probably raise it to 100 million you can mint at a time versus the current is 10 million, which is very slow, nominal, and there isn't a lot. And so there are advantages to having Dragos breeding, and then the characteristics of the Drago, the different levels, you can develop that. So you can use that to defend your city. You can use that to send with your marching troops to help increase their stats, and you can help defend your alliance and your continents, gates, and fortresses at within the continent versus continent event. So there's a lot of I think potential good use cases for Dragos. I don't know if Drago will uh, become cheaper over time as more and more people breed it. There's a certain number of times you can breed like six or something like that for the Dragos, and so there's a use case, but I think there's also a little bit complexity with the Drago, and it's also RNG, a little bit of luck, random number generator type structure when you're breeding them. So there's the dominant and recessive genes and some of the other pooling. So there's a bit of a luck aspect of it too. So I think it's good to just reinvest your from the whatever you get from your continent versus continent local vouchers. And then the second item is I'm waiting to see what N Plus and what League of Kingdoms will provide as a reward for staking within your continent. I'm in continent 4, so what I'm looking at is if the reward is sufficient. I think many times, and currently there isn't a lot of incentives uh, to stake your Loka on your continent unless you're a big player, and then you get one of their soulbound tokens, so which is another. I don't know. I'm not really that crazy about the concept of soulbound in a Web3 environment, but they did provide that, and I'm not a large staker, so I have no say in it. It is what it is. In terms of what I'm willing to do, if they're not gonna reward the smaller stakers, I think I'll just take that off the table because at the end of the day. The continent sea mine, there's so many people looking at it. There's limited I think at the end of the day N Plus and League of Kingdoms developers should look towards creating a DAO for the king, where the king of every continent should have certain rule sets that they should be able to administer and decide, and or do a delegated piece where they can delegate authority and voting privileges within every continent, depending on your stake loca piece on the continent, you get a vote, and I think that's something that we can look at. So this way they can implement its blockchain. So we can implement an automated market maker system for the DAO voting, whether you want it to be plurocratic by majority or some kind of quadratic type voting structure. I don't think it has to be that complicated. They can just implement it, and they can also integrate it within the king skills as well. Kings can provide get additional king skills, and I think there's a lot that they can learn from like Rise of Kingdoms from their king skills opportunity. Maybe I'll do a video on that too to do a comparison and what the evolutionary learning curve for Rise of Kingdoms and their concept around king skills, especially when it comes to their kingdom versus continent (KVK) type structure. They can learn. The third thing I'll do is stake on the Ronin network and on the liquidity pool for the Ron and the ETH liquidity pool. I like Axie Infinity's Ronin network. I think eventually they'll add games to it. It's a risk reward scenario, and I think everyone should do their own research on this. But I think this is a great opportunity to look at, and I think. The Ron ETH liquidity pool is the biggest one there, so it's probably a little bit from a risk standpoint, and that's why it pays the least out of the percentage of the liquidity pool. As you'll see when you go to the Katana Ronin chain network, you'll see that the ETH Ron to ETH it pays the least. But I think it's also an area I believe in, that I believe Axie Infinity will grow over time through the Rona network, and I think they'll potentially infuse the AX governance token value through that, but not necessarily within the current game system they have. I think unless they modified it significantly over time, they still have, I think, around 300 to 500,000 active monthly active users. So it's still a good solid game from that standpoint and number of users. The fourth thing I'll do is buy and stake on Splinterland's SPS token. I believe that the token is it's around 3 cents, and I think over time, as the game continues, they still have 4.5 more years of SPS airdrop, and they'll reach a point where it'll go from the current 1+ billion to the final 3 billion. And once I think all the airdrops and the liquidity has reached its maximum of 3 billion, I think SPS will do well. And maybe later, and they have actually a proposal. They may list it on use some of the SPS to list it on exchanges and things like that. So there's definitely opportunities there. But I like their economy, their structure, and the potential. And I think the founders has done a fantastic job in managing the ups and downs of the game, and they've survived. This is their third bear market, so I think it's a good, sustainable game. It still has significantly high risk. The fifth item is I'm actually looking for other games, other Web3 games that have longevity and survivability. I'm not looking for something I put my money in a year or two and things like that. I'm looking for something that will be sustainable, that will grow and have a kind of a way to have a lot of the flywheel mechanisms that's sometimes I refer to. I like products and services that have a residual income, and so that's one of the models I'm looking at. And the sixth item is I'm looking for ways that I can use the LOKA vouchers to invest and to increase the value of my actual playing account itself. So I like to move it from 170 million to the max to over 200 million power, and then max some of the things. So some of the areas like I don't have a strong defensive or attack city skin. I don't have a lot of the attributes. A lot of my city skins are like the Christmas skins that gives you the 10% from that reduction and the action point, or they'll have ones for like the cake. The cake one, or they'll have ones that or the Halloween one. So that I have the freebies, and I have ones that have like speed and things like that. March troops, so like 5%. So it's not much. So I'm looking to improve in certain areas of that. Like city skin would be one I would look to improve. The other one is the horn, the war horn. So I would look to maybe buy some of the packages later on, but that's further down the road. That's a nice to have, and especially the training reduction piece. I think that's pretty nice. This is it for this video. Just wanted to share my thoughts and what I would do with my LOKA and LOKA vouchers. A few people asked me, so, and also this is not financial advice. It's what someone asked me what I would do, and this is so I wanted to share that. And thank you so much for your time.